Good morning, Eileen.
Good morning, Nancy.
All the way from Jamestown, North Dakota, USA to
The middle of Ireland.
the middle. Oh, it's the middle of Ireland.
It is
Okay.
more or less a little bit up to the north.
Okay. I'm in the middle of the north of the United States, in the middle up north. So we're both in the middle. We're very close to Canada. So for me, it is now 10:15 in the morning, and it must be 4:15 for you. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So you've had most of your day.
I've had more time to worry about this than you.
Did you have a good day?
Yes, I've had a quiet day.
Good. Mine's starting out well. So this is a good time because I think it catches us both at a fairly good time of day.
It does.
So we are here to do our next quarterly author chat, which we like to call it. And today's topic is audiobooks. Many of you out there may read or listen to audiobooks. Some people say that audiobooks are not books. What's your thinking on that, Eileen?
Well, it's just a different form of a book. It is a book.
Yeah.
You're not reading, but you're listening and you're getting the same ideas. In fact, there's a lot of advantages to having audiobooks. It's very good for your imagination, especially for children, because you have to imagine yourself in that place. I know you do that when you're reading too, but when you're listening, it's kind of slightly different. And you could make yourself very comfortable and just listen and escape into another world. In fact, it's very good now when you're traveling. You can listen. If you haven't got much time, maybe if you're on a journey, you can have it in the car. And if children are being a bit noisy and a bit restless, it's very good to turn on these for the children in the car, and they can have their own earphones, which is good. And maybe if a child is a bit restless or afraid at bedtime, it might be a good way of getting them to relax when they're in bed. And they say that for children that listen to audiobooks, that their use of language is a lot better. And in fact, it helps their reading because they're picking up new vocabulary. They might be hearing new genre books, which they won't pick up in the library themselves. And it's good for comprehension, and it's good for learning the phrasing of language and how the tone, emphasis, and they pick up on all that. It's like having a book read to you, but without the person present.
Do you think
so? It's very handy for parents and babysitters as well.
Well, do you think some people would say, I mean, this thought has gone through my mind, that it's not as good, using that word loosely, as an actual person, parent, grandparent, whoever, reading to them because of that contact with the person? Do you think some would say that's just like, the lazy way or a cop-out? Have you ever heard that said?
You're not going to just use audiobooks all the time. You're going to use a combination of reading to the children. You're going to let them listen to audiobooks. You're going to let them see things on the computer, so it's visual as well. And you're going to actually get them to have books, handle books themselves. So it's a combination of using all these things, which helps develop reading skills and comprehension and language.
I can see they come in very handy. And also, when a parent might not be available, like I think you just said, when they can do it independently. And one thing I thought about recently with my own young granddaughter, our youngest granddaughter is starting kindergarten this year. And already in kindergarten, they're going to be using tablets. And she's already used to using a tablet. She knows how to use it. And, I think young children, which is different than we went to school, they are going to be exposed to all of this technology very early, even before school, and they're going to use it in school very early, and they're probably going to use audio type books, audio things just like that in their learning. And if they don't keep up, the thought is, if you don't keep up with technology, if they don't learn early, they're going to be so far behind because the world is moving so fast that way.
Well, that exactly. My grandchildren are the same. You know, they're using all these tablets and different computers and that in school automatically, and they're using them at home. So it's also good for listening skills, and for children that might be visually impaired or have dyslexia or some problem reading. It would help them to catch up with what the books that have been read in school. So it's a way of helping people as well.
It is, and for adults as well. I know several adults, and my brother was one, who his MS progressed over the years to a place where his eyes were affected, and then with cancer, it was much harder for him to read a book than in previous years. And so he started listening to audiobooks, and that way he could, read basically what he wanted to. I consider audiobooks books as well. I consider ebooks books, I consider paperback books, hardback books, and audiobooks books. All of those to me are books in different forms.
Well, it's all literature anyway.
Different ways to get it out there. So as authors, we want people to read and know books. So if we can give them as many ways as possible, that's great.
It is. And I mean, even when my children were young, we used to have tapes in the car on books, on tapes. And sometimes we'd have to listen to it again and again and again.
Yes. I don't know where you live, but do you have the old We Sing Silly Songs tapes? They're all just music, children's songs being sung.
We had something similar to that anyway.
We heard those endlessly, but I liked them too. I remember some of those.
I remember my son had a big thing for Thomas the Tank Engine.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be the same phrases again and again.
Yeah, that's big here for little kids, or it was.
So it saves the person having to read them over and over again.
That's true. If they want to hear it, go listen to it yourself or read it yourself, right? Well, I can see a lot of benefits myself to audiobooks. Now, I personally, I don't listen to a lot of audiobooks, though I have. And for a while, I listened to a short series of books while I was walking outside, but I really don't like to do that because I'm very into nature and I like to look and listen to what's going on around me too, with nature and whatever people might be around. But I have listened at home. I seem to concentrate better if I'm reading a book, ebook or otherwise, but there have been times I'm happy to have an audiobook. There was one I listened to in years past when I was still working, a 9 to 5. And as I was getting ready for work, I would listen to audiobooks.
Well, I suppose I have listened to like people reading on the radio and that, so I suppose it's a similar experience. Again, I haven't done much myself, I must confess. But it's something I really should try. And I know lots of my friends just love them.
I know some people who love them too. And what you said is true. I was thinking about this visit today, I was thinking that audiobooks are somewhat like the old times of listening to stories and shows on radio,
Exactly.
television, when it was just audio. It's just a newer way to do that. I mean, you might even be able to get shows on audio as well as books. I'm not really certain. But, that was a very popular, fun thing for families back in the day when they all came around the radio to listen. And so I can see how audiobooks could be that for an individual or a family.
Because when I was very young too, they had special time. We used to listen to it either at home or in school. I don't know, was it children's hour, something like that. It was and they would have books being read, and also we'd do a music movement to things on the radio. So I think it is the same thing, really.
Yes. I mean, it's like there's live music, there's recorded music, there's everybody's streaming music. People use streaming music all the time to listen to or do exercise to. It's all kind of the same thing. One is words and books and one is music, and they're related, for people to use away from just being at a live musical show or having a book in hand.
Yes, it's a different experience. I mean, you can just close your eyes and listen to it and be there as well. Now,
what do you think? Did I interrupt you? I'm sorry.
No, I was just thinking when I was about 10, we had some history program listening all about Odysseus or Ulysses.
Okay.
And I still remember listening to that in the class.
Yeah. One thing about audiobooks too is, I mean, the ones I have listened to, the readers do a very good job, the narrators. And it's fun to listen to their voices. And the ones who can do multiple voices, like for dialogue for different characters, that's interesting. I do also like listening to the author themselves read their book.
Yes.
And I know I've read several times recently that is a popular thing with audiobook listeners. Some people, they like to hear the author. And I guess the author knows their books and their phrasing the best, having written it. That's something I'm interested in. But we can talk about that as our next section if you like. But do you have more?
Yes, because I was just thinking now, I have read one of my books and put it up on YouTube, and a lot of people do that too.
That is
That's another way of doing it, something else we could discuss. But, I think I'm fairly good at reading my books, but I wouldn't have the technical knowledge to make sure that it was the sound and everything was perfect. So I'd rather get a narrator to do my books. And it's interesting to see how they might do it slightly differently.
Yes.
And a lot of them now would have acting skills, and they'd be professional in what they do, and they produce it so that the sound is good as well.
Yes. One thing you said, it would be interesting to see, and you've probably already noted this, how another person interprets what they're reading. And I found this to be true in my musical career as well. I had composed this piece of music, and I wondered, in notating that, just like you would in a written book with your punctuation, there's a lot to music notation. And I wondered, did I get this correct so that somebody else playing it would play it the way I intend? So I pulled my neighbor from across the street at the time, who was a very good sight reader and piano player, and said, would you play this for me? I want to see if you interpret it the way I mean for it to be interpreted. And so as she played, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I want to put a fermata there. Maybe I want to, maybe she didn't catch it exactly as I meant a certain place because I didn't notate it well enough. Well, same with books. If somebody's reading and you realize in listening to them, maybe you think as the author, oh, I could have actually rewritten that sentence a little bit for it to come across to them the way I meant it. Or we can instruct them, no, this is what I meant, for them to maybe phrase it the way we intended. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's very good. I mean, authors are often advised to take themselves reading their books. And it is by reading them you suddenly see, oh, I made a mistake there, or I should maybe put that across in a different way. So that's interesting.
It might happen. I've heard it happen to authors, and it's sometimes happened to me. I'm rereading something I've written and I'm like, that didn't really make sense. How can I rewrite this sentence? So it really does make sense, because we know what's in our head, but the reader needs to know what's in our head. We have to be clear,
Exactly, yes.
So, well, I know you have done the audiobooks. I have yet to do one. Now I've started at least 3 times reading one of my own, but it is challenging technically. In my case, it's partly having a place, because in our small town there are no soundproof rooms. There's no radio spot or college spot or music school spot. There's no place that has a soundproof room. Now, I did find out it doesn't have to be as complicated as it sometimes has sounded to me. One gentleman years ago, before he got sick, had asked me to narrate a short story. And I said, oh, we have lots of microphones here as musicians, but I don't know if I have what I need. And he said, just use what you're using right now. And I on my iPhone and my iPad, I use what's called Voice Record Pro. And you can set it for pretty high quality standards. And I started with that, and it actually was working well. What it would boil down to for me, I found my quietest place in our home And there's only 2 of us here, but the quietest place for me is being home alone and go to our basement. And even if I see a neighbor's car pull up over on the side of us, I don't hear it. So I can get pretty quiet. And you can use on Voice Record Pro a setting that takes out some of that outside noise as well. The hard thing is, now how am I going to get this edited and put together? I don't have those skills. And there is someone in our town who does that. So if I ever read, and what she said to me was, when you read, if you cough, sneeze, make a mistake, stumble, whatever, just stop, go back a little ways, start before where you made the mistake and start again. And in the end, she'd put it all together. As yet, I don't know how pricey that would be, but I do have that option. That's a way where you're doing it yourself. I've heard people say they go into their closet where all the clothes, make the right acoustics. Or I tried this once just in doing a short audio podcast in my car away from home. People will do that in their car somewhere. Well, you never know if a siren's going to come by or something like that, but you can try. And you can go to a secluded spot. That's another idea. But for me, I found my basement might be the best place. I would just have to have help at the end. Unless I learned that, which is not highly likely anytime soon to do that skill, to learn that skill. But that is a choice. And then now, before I back up and talk about a couple other things I've learned, and I know you have too, tell us, Eileen, again, how you got your help.
Pardon?
How you got your audio help, your narrators.
Well, I used ACX, and they have people can apply as narrators to be hired for the job. So you kind of put in, like if it's a children's book, and you might put in what kind of voice or accent you want, and you kind of define exactly what you want. And then you might get a list of narrators and you can listen to them. And you decide then, would that be suitable for my book? So you then can make them an offer. Now, on ACX, because I haven't got loads of money, the company itself will take a certain percentage of royalties. And then you can choose to, if the narrator chooses as well, to divide the royalties between you. Or they can get a full payment. You can do it several different ways. But I've chosen to share my royalties because I just want to get my books out there as audiobooks. So because I do mainly children's books, I chose one lady that lives in the UK. And I thought she was very good. And we got together actually on WhatsApp. Now, some people don't. Some people connect on email or whatever. So we connected on WhatsApp and spoke to each other face to face. And she wanted me to give us, background. Now, in the actual ACX things, when you're setting it up, you'd put in like descriptions of characters and what they might be like, just to give some idea of character. And then you give an excerpt, a short excerpt, which is sent to the narrator to try. And then they get back to you after recording that. And now, the lady in England, before she got to that stage, we'd get together and she'd send it to me and she'd say, what do you think? Or is this right? And I'd say, well, actually, most of them, but one particular character, I didn't think it was exactly right. And we'd discuss it. And then she'd do that and send it on to me. And if you're happy with that excerpt, you send on the full book. Well, you see, for a children's book, a short children's book, that's very easy. So you can send on the full script, and then you kind of decide a date when you want that back by, and you agree that. And then eventually that has to be all put through the whole system of ACX, and they have to decide if the quality is good enough, if there's any problems with the cover, the sound, whatever, and they get back to you if there's any problems. And eventually you get your book produced, and it's fantastic then, and then you can promote it. And so you can also get promo codes from ACX.
Okay.
give out free to people to encourage people to read it.
I think I just saw that on ACX yesterday when I was looking. I have an account there. With your children's books, I know it can take different lengths, but about what was the length of time for you from when you first chose a narrator to it was finished?
Well, most of my books up until now have been very short children's books. So it could be a matter of a few weeks, really.
Okay.
Months. Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm hoping to do one now in August, which is an older children's book and it'll be slightly longer, so that probably take a bit longer. And it also depends if the narrator's available or if I'm available to discuss it with them and we come to some agreement. Now, I did have another book which needed a French accent in it, so I got another lady to do that who was actually part French, and she was an actress as well, which was an added bonus. So that worked out very well as well.
That would. Well, you've stepped into it farther than I have. Now, I initially went into ACX looking for narrating jobs to do myself, but I also put up samples, record my voice recorded in samples of my books, so somebody looking could tell if they wanted my voice or not. But I spent a little bit of time looking for narrators that I could use as well. But you're ahead of the game. You're farther along than I am. I do hope to read some myself, if not all. You know, it's a big job to get through a whole book and multiple books. Another way I wanted to bring up that I've discovered for audiobooks is through Draft to Digital. I know that there are many who know about Draft to Digital, others do not, but I have all my books published through Draft to Digital. They publish wide. Now you can already be on Amazon and go through Draft to Digital and just not check the Amazon box because you're already there. But if you're not already on Amazon, they will also send you over into Amazon. But they send the books out in 12, 15 places, print or audio. Well, they recently added, besides, they started ebook, then they went print, then they added audio and promotions. And the promotions are supposed to be quite easy to set up, but the audiobooks are free as far as I know. The service is free, as Draft to Digital is free to use to set up your books. There's no cost. And they have a thing called, let's see, I wrote it down, Find a Way voices. And if I understand right, you can use your own voice, or you can choose a Find a Way voice, just like you would in ACX, where you would go looking for a narrator. The thing I've learned in Draft to Digital, because it's happened to me on every single book in there, except a short story, is that I don't qualify yet. Partly it's because they don't have enough narrators yet to cover every genre. But partly, and we discussed how to say this word, the bisects are off, and they can't use it maybe until I change categories of my books. Now in Amazon, you can now use up to 3 categories. I plan to go in, change up what my categories say, add a new one, see if I can find another way to describe my books that might qualify for what Draft to Digital is offering. I was told that they'll be offering more in the future, but since it's brand new, they're just getting certain genres. Like if you write romance, you're likely to have a reader. What was the other one? There were like 2 categories that they were ready to do. Now, none of mine fit into those categories. The short story is different than the others. And when I went in yesterday, I'm like, oh, it looks like I can read this myself if I like, or hire someone. So I might try it, you know, with the short story. It's only 13 pages, so I can see how it works.
That's a good idea.
See what happens, you know.
So you have to, a lot of things that you're kind of a bit scared of, or it's brand new to you. You just have to start somewhere. You learn as you go along. And you learn from your mistakes.
You know, they have a lot to read, like ACX or any. You have to look at their terms of service and their privacy policies and check those off that you've read them. And it's a lot of words to read. It's worth it though to go through those. And they have the same in Draft to Digital, but they're really very, very easy to work with. And I'm gonna try.
There was one little problem I had with ACX. Now that it's all Amazon based, and you have to distribute, I think, through Audible and through Amazon sites. But sometimes you can just load up from Amazon your book cover and all that, but the book cover has to be kind of a square shape.
Yes.
So I had problems trying to change that shape. So I found Canva was the best one to go into, and I used Canva to change the size. So that's good to know. Worked best for me.
I saw that in there where you can choose audiobook cover. In the past, up to very recently, all of my book covers have been done by a designer I've used for quite a long time. And he supplies the ebook, the print, the hardback print, and an audio.
Oh, that's very handy.
Even though I don't have an audiobook yet, somewhere in there I have it, saved.
So you'll be prepared.
Helpful. Yeah. And, I don't know, there's other companies. I don't know the names of them, but I know people have used other companies besides ACX. That's the giant big one, with Amazon. Draft to Digital, doing it personally in your home. Now, ACX also has a whole section. If you sign up as an author narrator, they have a whole section and video that teaches you how to do it from home. And they show, how to use a microphone correctly. Oh, and one thing that I saw in this video, which is a good thing to remember, if you want to read yourself, is what clothing you have on. For instance, if you have something crinkly, it might get picked up if you move your arms. They told you what to wear and not to wear any jewelry because it'll rattle. They told you what to drink, like it was water. Take a break, have some water, but they literally showed what to wear: soft cotton, jeans, some fabrics that won't make noise, and no jewelry that makes noise, and no ticking clocks near you, that kind of thing that you might not realize the microphone is picking up. So
pajamas sound good.
Yeah, pajamas. That's a good idea. I can go with that. Soft pajamas. This clock here makes a little ticking noise. I might have to get rid of it if I were up here. But anyway, I thought that was really interesting, everything they thought of, but it was through doing their own books, That was on ACX. So they do have a lot of tutorials to help you do it from home. Now, I didn't get to the point where it gets edited because I know I have to get help with that. But if you hire somebody like you did, they're going to take care of that for you.
Well, that's one of the main reasons why I did. I took the easy route.
Yeah, I might do that as well. I mean, I don't think I can get every single book read, but if I start with a 13-page story, that'll be my test and my sample.
Well, maybe if you got a narrator for one of your books and then you could get talking to the narrator and build up a relationship, they might help you out how to start.
Yep, that's true. You got to start somewhere, like you said.
That's it. Because it is a partnership. If you're working with a narrator, it's good to have a good working relationship. And you might be living in different countries. So
yes. My designer lives in a different country, far, far away. Here you and I are conversing and working together in a way, and we're far, far away across the ocean.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the modern world for you, which is good.
I like that part, I never would have met you if we didn't have this technology.
Well, that's true.
You have anything else burning to say about audiobooks before we close today?
I just think they're a very useful tool, and they're not the be all and end all, but they are part of, as you say, a whole different way of enjoying literature.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be like classical books that you always said, oh, I wanted to read that book, and you might get an audio book and then decide you will read the book.
Right. That's true. Or if you really like the audiobook, you might want to own the printed book, I do that with ebooks. If I really, really love the story, sometimes I want to have it on my shelf and I'll buy the print book. So
that's it, because I mean, there's all these like famous books that you say, I should have read that, I should have read that. And you hear about everybody talking about them, but you've never done it. So it might be a good introduction. You can break it up then, listen at 15 minutes a day or whatever you want to do.
Well, since we've been talking about audiobooks, and since we both did a little bit of preparation about audiobooks and have delved into it on our own, it's made me a little more eager to listen to more audiobooks and to get something done for myself,
Yeah, definitely. I must have a go myself.
And also a lady here in our town, she said, do you have your books on audio? I said, no, not yet. She goes, oh, I'm not very good at reading a book, but I do like audiobooks. So there you go. As an author, you might get more readers because they like audiobooks and don't read print.
And maybe if you could combine your printed book with an audio book, I don't know if that's possible. Be
Yeah,
good.
that's a good
Good
question.
combo.
Like sell them together as a set on Amazon or something?
As a combination. I'm not sure if that's available or not. I have to look into that.
I know you can, purchase each one if you want, but I don't know about a set. Huh, that's a good thought. Well, we'll have to find out. One more thing to learn, right?
Another thing to learn.
Another thing to learn. Well, anything else you have to say on audiobooks?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see you today, Eileen. And let's see, 3 more months, we'll be back again with another topic.
Please God, yes.
We'll have to choose. And if anybody listens to this, those who listen to this that have a topic they're interested in, you could let us know. This will be on YouTube, Eileen's channel and mine. It'll be on our social medias. It'll be on our websites probably. And so if somebody out there has a topic that they'd like covered, if we don't know it, we're happy to research it because we like to do that kind of stuff.
We sure do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks, Eileen. It's nice to see you today. I guess it's time for you to have dinner, huh?
I must go thinking about cooking it now.
Oh, okay. It won't be too long until it's time for me to have some lunch, but
okay.
Nice to see you today, and everybody, thanks for listening.
It's nice to talk to you too, Nancy. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.